So it's time for another gardening week video, and I'm right in the thick of the transition to the summer crops. Well, not all of them summer crops. So this bed here I've just finished planting, and I did a separate video on it. So this is the winter carrots and the spring carrots, and they're going to be under a cold frame like this one very shortly. And the cold frame actually is key to my system now for this, because the cold frame allows me to keep the carrots covered all the way through winter, which means that I can harvest them even when it's snowy and frosty and all of that. And it also means that I can interplant in between the rows with spring crops, so lettuces and spinach and turnips and radishes and all of those sorts of things. And so it really boosts the productivity of the carrot bed, you know, because otherwise the carrots are just standing in here kind of passive, really just being used as, the bed is really just being used as storage. But I do like keeping the carrots in the ground and keeping them alive. I think they just taste so much fresher and the texture is just so much better. And of course, winter and spring carrots taste way better than summer carrots anyway. So right now, I'm just kind of delaying the inevitable, which is I've got to transition this bed over, and it's going to be beetroot. It's currently purple sprouting broccoli. So I'm going to get all these plants out and chopped up and make a start on getting the bed ready. So all good things come to an end. We've had such a fantastic crop off this purple sprouting broccoli. It's been really great, and I've had 3 different varieties in here: Red Fire, Red Admiral and Claret. And that's worthy of comment because those 3 different PSBs all come ready at a different time. So we've had a continuous crop from January time until now, so the middle of May. Yeah, it's been really nice, and it kind of indicates my decision not to grow cauliflowers in midwinter, you know, because they're just such an unpredictable crop, whereas the purple sprouting broccoli is, you know, just slightly more reliable. And I do stake it because it does blow over in the wind on this windy site. I really dislike this part of gardening. All this just pulling plants out, all the carnage and mess that results. But I do like all these greens that I need to chop and recycle. After all that clearing the beds last week, my compost bin's at 50 degrees now, and I'm going to turn it again in order to turn all these greens into it. And yeah, I'll be really pleased when this is all clear. My neat freak brain doesn't cope with it very well, so I'm getting a bit more paranoid about clubroot these days. So I always take the roots off before I start doing anything near the compost bins, and I just chop into this bin and turn my other compost bin into it. Just keep on enriching it with more greens. And I've done a video all about my composting system, so I'll not go into too much detail here. But yeah, lots and lots of chopping required. Got to watch out for tennis elbow actually, so don't do too much at once. Now I know some people like to leave their brassicas in for the bees, and I do too, for as long as I can, but I don't like to leave them for too long, because inevitably they get cabbage aphid, and I don't want that transferring to my new season crops. So I'm making progress with this. I got some free strulch, which is this mineralised straw, last year, and I thought, oh, it'd be a good idea to put this on this bed, retain the water, and it actually probably did a good job of that. Unfortunately, because there's a bit of club root in this bed, I now can't compost the strulch, which is what I was going to do. So I've had to bag it all up, which is a bit of a pain. But anyway, this soil is extremely dry. I'll probably have to go down, I don't know, 6 inches before I get any moisture. That's the problem with these sort of beds, you know, where you've basically had these big plants pulling water out of this ground all the way through spring. And even though this bed has had so much compost on it, it's just really loose, kind of sandy. So it's not great. So what I need to do is I need to put a fair amount of water onto this bed, you know, 100 litres or so, and some blood, fish and bone. So I'm going to get on with that now. So I'm happy with that. This mushroom compost, nice and strawy, and I don't compact it down, so there's no or limited capillary action taking water out of the soil when it's windy and sunny. It does just mean though that when you water it, you do really have to give it a really good soaking, like every 2 weeks or something like that, to get through the mushroom compost mulch and deep into the soil. So yeah, I'll just show you the little beetroot. They're coming on. They'll be ready to plant in about a week's time. So I'm back home in the kitchen garden for a few minutes, and I'm just putting in these red cabbages. These are red fugo, and they're noticeably nicer than the red drumhead. And just popping them into this bed that was all salad onions, and just harvested most of those at the weekend. And I only do a few at a time with red cabbages because I've got red cabbages there and red cabbages there and earlier successions on the allotment, and they all come together, so we can only eat 4 red cabbages a month. So I basically do a month's supply, and yeah, plant them nice and deep. And there's already quite a few butterflies around, so I want to get them under cover fairly soon. But more of a problem at this time of year are the pigeons. There's still not that much for them to eat, so anything that I seem to plant, they want to eat. So also in the kitchen garden, all the parsnips are up, and these are ready for thinning now, down here. So I'm just thinning the parsnips, just snipping off any that are surplus. So I always do a few plants in each station and then just snip them off. I don't do that with carrots, but I do. I find it's the best way with parsnips because they are fairly unreliable germinators. And we do like a kind of mix of big parsnips and little parsnips. So I finally put my courgettes outside, and it's a little bit windy tonight, so I'm going to put them under a little bit of fleece just to keep them happy for a few days. They have been well hardened off though in the garden. And I've also brought my little melon plants, and I've also snipped off the growing tips on them because they've got 5 true leaves now. The little ones here, these watermelons, they're not quite so far on, and honeydews. So hopefully hoping that with the increased light levels that they're going to get in the polytunnel, they'll do better than they are doing at home. And I got the cross supports in for the squash, which will be growing in that little path there, and same thing at the other end here. I built my second mega coal frame. I did a separate video all about that, so I won't go into the details here. So I'm just down here next to my beetroot, and it is looking so nice. You know, beetroot is such a fantastic crop. Get all these amazing leaves, all these beautiful roots, and they just look really pretty as well. So yeah, really fussy with the beetroot. Anyway, time to get on with the harvest. So it's an early morning harvest day for me, and yeah, pretty pleased. Finally managed to fit everything on the table with almost no double deckering. So I'm really happy about that, because actually, you know, this has always been my objective, just to fill this table and not really have such quite a big surplus. So hopefully this is the way it will continue. And so we've got celery, a full celery head here again. I'm just clearing a few spares to make way for the tomatoes, which will be going in a week or so. Parsley, asparagus. We've picked quite a bit during the week, but this is the biggest harvest of the week. And yeah, I managed to do it. So purple sprout and broccoli finished last week, and the calabrese is kicking in this week. And doesn't it look absolutely gorgeous? Finished the overwintered carrots last week, and the new season carrots are coming thick and fast, but only really just enough for Debbie and I. So none for the kids, unfortunately, or not many. Yeah, absolutely stunning crop of peas. And, you know, somebody says, oh, you know, you grow peas in the polytunnel, but no, I don't. These aren't peas from the polytunnel. These are peas that are loving it outside at the moment, and have been outside since April. So, yeah, they're really good. I did have some little baby courgettes last week, but this is the first sort of almost full-sized courgette, and that's Zephyr. I particularly like the colouring on this one. It's really nice. And potatoes, new potatoes. So that, I think that's 2 tubers. So I know a lot of people put loads and loads of seed potatoes, like 4 seed potatoes in a tub, with the objective of getting a bigger harvest. But honestly, I just think that's a really good harvest from 2 tubers this time of the year. So very happy with that. And maybe I've got one more pick of this sort of scrappy spinach that we've got here. But look at that. Just look at that. It's so thick. It's almost like a succulent. So that's the Mikado. So we always look forward to transitioning over to the Mikado spinach at this time of year. And yeah, it's pretty much ready now. I just had all this other stuff and I didn't want to waste it, so leave that Mikado to grow on a little bit. Brussels sprout leaves, absolutely, look at those, so gorgeous. And kales, green curly kale and red curly kale. And beetroot from the store, still looking pretty good. I'm happy with this, but you know, you can't really compete with fresh, new picked beetroot. And of course we won't leave these leaves on, we'll box those up. But yeah, stunning, aren't they? And onions, it's amazing how they heart up. It's amazing how they bulb up so quickly. I mean, only 2 weeks ago, and you know, they were really small, like half the size of this, and yeah, they just really go crazy if you give them enough water. And yeah, and all those beautiful greens as well. And we don't have any garlic, so we've got green garlic though, and that's absolutely gorgeous. And then these are the first of the elephant leeks, so not elephant garlic, which we use as a leek. As you can see, it looks pretty much exactly like a leek. and it tastes quite like a leek as well. And the salads, absolutely stunning at this time of year, of course, with all the salad ingredients. The tomatoes we're still buying from the shop. We've got plenty of tomatoes coming, but they're not quite ripe yet. But we have got radishes and salad onions and lots of lettuces. We haven't got any Asian greens right now. We won't have until probably the week after next. And yeah, I just thought I'd show you the mix of salad leaves we've got. So we've got this moon red. It's really nice. It's kind of like a red little gem. We've got Navara, which is a stunner. I think it's probably, if I had to grow one lettuce, it would probably be Navara. Really good. Flashy butter oak. Again, this is such a beautiful leaf. Very happy with this. This is one of the Salanovas, but I can't unfortunately remember which one it was because I've got so many different ones and I didn't label them. But it's quite nice, that kind of rosy kind of tint to it. And Lobjoit's green, lovely crispy rib on this. The whole leaf is quite nice. And the Grenoble red, and I don't think Grenoble red's very good at this time of year. But obviously we've got all these other beauties, so you don't really mind. And I think I got to everything. So yeah, really happy with that. Long may it continue. So now I'll just answer a few questions. So Sherry has asked, do we use the carrot tops? Well, we do occasionally, and we do sometimes put them in smoothie mixes and things like that, but actually the carrot tops are not in fantastic condition at the moment, so we're not using them because obviously we've got so much great stuff anyway that we don't really need to. And how do we keep it all in good condition? Doesn't it kind of just go rotten? Well, no, it doesn't. It's all these leaves are moist and spun dry, and obviously we'll put tops on them, put them in the fridge, and they keep really well for 7 days. So we just like the supermarket convenience, just being able to pop to the fridge and get something rather than having to sort of traipse to the allotment to pick it, and so many different places to pick because there's so many different ingredients in all these boxes. It just takes a long time, and we just wouldn't do it if it wasn't just in the fridge and ready just to take out a box and eat it straight away. So how do you get your kale so early? Well, we start it in January and it will go to seeds. In fact, a bit of it is starting to go to seeds, so we always plan to only have it until July, and then we replace it with something else. In this case, it's going to be purple sprouting broccoli. How do you keep your beetroot so nice? Well, we keep it in damp wood chips. So we harvest it in October, put it in damp wood chips, and that keeps it just really lovely. How do you get your beetroot so early? Well, we start in January and put it down the edges of the beds in the polytunnel, and so it grows really beautifully. What is green garlic? It's just immature garlic, basically planted close together, so you get a nice big harvest, and I think it's like that sort of, you get that from one clove of garlic, so it's a really good, one bulb of garlic, so it's a really good investment. And we do leave our elephant garlic in as well for harvest of big bulbs, but we have so much of it that we can afford to harvest a little bit as leeks until our early leeks, summer leeks, are ready. And the peas, I did mention the peas. So we start those in January as well. We put them at the back of one of the low tunnels, and then we take the low tunnel top off in April and let the peas go crazy. And it works really well. We plant them really low density. So I think our whole pea bed probably only has something like 24 peas in it or something like crazy, 24 plants. But they just, they just bush out and grow like huge big plants that are super healthy when you plant them at a lower density. When you plant huge numbers of peas, you get huge numbers of plants, but not so many peas on each plant and not so bushy. So I think that's enough waffling. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.